Coming up today, hiking and health and retreat life, because it's fairly cold and damp outside and we all need a bit of retreat life right now. Also talking science and diet and getting leaner and the alkaline diet and more. Hi, I'm Tony. I'm an author, presenter at Sky Sports, and years ago I went to the jungle and got ill. Very ill. So this is my podcast adventure to find more energy. It's packed with biohacking, science, health tech, supplements, and some of the most well-known experts on the planet.
This is something I spent 4 months of my life doing with electrodes glued to my head so that you can do a lifetime worth of meditation.
Decide what you don't give a fuck about, which is something you don't care about.
Some of it gets quite out there.
I had some stem cells sent up to my house that I had stored, and then I injected myself with mannitol.
And we even hack hangovers.
Alcohol is poisonous. So is water and oxygen in the wrong dosage.
So that's my podcast, Zestology. Live life with energy, vitality, and motivation. Yeah, as we approach Christmas and my review of the year show, which I'm very much looking forward to, and all sorts of treats for you come January, a retreat life type podcast today. Alex Glasscock founded the phenomenally successful The Ranch Malibu. Very cool place with wife Sue 12 years ago. They couldn't find what they wanted on the market, so they did it themselves, and their offering, it has to be said, is pretty dreamy. 4-hour daily hikes in nature, strength training and yoga, and supported by plant-based cuisine. We're going to talk about plant-based cuisine today because it's fair to say that we have a lot of carnivores who come on this podcast as guests. So we're looking at science and diet and getting leaner and the alkaline diet today. And I really enjoyed this chat with Alex because he's launched his first European outpost in Italy this year. Sounds amazing. And I think one of the central tenets of what they do is hiking and walking. And I just know I feel great when I walk. And right now, as you listen to me record this podcast, I have been stuck in the spare room all morning recording podcast intros and voiceovers for my TV voiceover job. And I need to get outside and walk. And I know once I do that, I'll feel so much better. Unfortunately, it's not going to be a 4-hour hike today because I've got too much to do. But I would love to do that. I genuinely would. So here he is, Alex Glasscock, talking hiking and health and lots more besides on Zestology. Alex, we're on. How are you?
Fine. How are you?
I'm really good, thanks. Yeah, it's great to talk. How do you describe to people what you do?
Well, that's a great question. I wouldn't say it's what I do. I would say that we have an amazing team of people that are trying to create a very sacred and special space for people to have personal life transformation in any manner that suits them, and we support that in creating a rigorous no options program that helps people on that journey.
Yeah, and of course, I know an element of that is quite strenuous physical activity. Is that right?
Yes. We found that by challenging people physically, that it helps, it gives them an opportunity to get out of their head and just get in touch with their body. And amazing things can happen when that occurs.
Yeah. I mean, that is totally my idea of a good time, actually. Over the years, I've just totally learned that that's what I need. I need to get out of my head, and it has to be physical. And if I'm not doing enough movement, even today, I'm doing 6 podcast interviews today, and in between, I'm just going for little walks, and I'm off to the gym and just trying to move around a little bit because that's what I need so much. So I can well imagine. But how strenuous is it? How physical is it?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we calibrate the intensity for each individual. So some people think you've got to be physically fit to be able to do our program. and that actually isn't true. What you have to be is just committed to efforting. And so, everybody can walk for 4 hours. We tend to do it in the mountains, so it tends to get a bit vertical, but you're still going at your own pace and you're being supported through that. And then for those guests that are really having a challenging time, then we basically just alternate. We provide alternates on the hikes, and we can allow them to walk, on something that's less vertical, more flat, to help them through. And then when it comes to the fitness classes, I might hand you a 40-pound weight, and I might hand somebody else a 5 or 10-pound weight, and both of you are getting to muscle fatigue at the same time, and you're cursing the fitness instructor in the same way. But it kind of balances everything so that you can collectively work out as a group.
Yeah. You need one of those TRXs to do it all for you. Have you heard of those?
We have 16 of them hanging in our gym.
Yeah, they're great. They're really good.
Yeah, they are.
You don't need long on a TRX to have a good workout, do you?
No. And again, that's self-selecting. So, depending on how much you lean, what angle you're using, it makes it harder or easier. So, everybody can be in a class together, getting out of it what they need.
Yeah. I have one of the exercise bikes here, a Carol bike, where you sort of, the theory is you only do 40 seconds of strenuous biking a day and you get the same as a 45-minute workout. But even though I know it works, but I don't feel like I've done enough of a workout, so I don't do it very often. Do you know? I use it as a normal exercise bike, which is silly, but I just can't do 40 seconds and feel like I'm done.
Yeah, I don't. I've never heard that actually, and I think it might take a little bit longer than that. But amazing, amazing if you can get it done in 10 times less.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's just the theory that you're just going to your absolute max for 40 seconds, and therefore, yeah.
And actually, it's not a 10th of the time; it's 100th of the time.
Yeah.
So
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think our internal systems need a little bit more than that. But that's cool if it works.
But whether it works or not, I feel better. I feel better exercising for longer, actually, mentally. So that's what I need. So I'm always interested in stories on this podcast, and I'm interested to know how you ended up doing what you do, because it's sort of quite an unusual and interesting career progression. I know you haven't done this, since graduating or since you were 18 years old. Right.
It is kind of an interesting story, or I hope it's an interesting story. Some of my fondest memories with my father was when he took us out into nature, and we tended to get him really present and really playful, whether it was canoeing or camping or whatever it was. And in college, in university, in my last semester, I had an elective that I could essentially blow off because I already had my job lined up. And it turned out to be a docent in a nature park outside of Austin, Texas. I went to the University of Texas in Austin. And so what I thought was going to be a really easy blow-off class, I actually had to learn about the flora and fauna and the changes of the seasons and be able to educate not only a busload of kids, but their teachers. And I gained a great appreciation for being out in nature and how subtle the nature can change. But when you see it day to day and week to week, and you really pay attention, it's quite profound and magical. And so then I jumped into banking and mortgage financing as a career. But my wife and I always spent time hiking and being in nature, and we always, found respite there. And so I read an article about a week-long kind of retreat, and I thought it would be really interesting to go because the program was completely choreographed. So all you had to do was show up. And if you efforted, then you were going to get great results. And at that time, I'd never done yoga, and yoga was a big part of the program. So I started going to yoga class because I didn't want to be that guy in the yoga class that knocked all the women over and knocked all the other people over. So I started going to yoga before the program, before the retreat, and I noticed I was actually going 3 or 4 times a week. And so I was having this fitness transformation, but I was also clearing my head and becoming really present. So after I went to this retreat, about halfway through, I realized that I was never going to go back there, but that given our experience in finance and construction and development and aesthetics, architecture, design, and our attention to detail and caring about our friends and family when they come visit us and how we host, Sue and I felt like we could put all those skills together and create the ranch. And so we ran the idea by our friends, and we asked them to talk us out of this crazy idea. And they actually said no.
And what were you doing at the time?
At the time, I had a residential mortgage company, and we were also remodeling beach houses in Malibu. So the idea of transforming a children's camp into an adult wellness retreat didn't seem daunting. And so we told our friends they would have to come to the ranch a lot because we didn't know who else was going to actually show up.
Yeah. And
then lo and behold, 12 years later, we have 50% guest repeat, and 35% of our guests are referred by people who've come. And we just we have a tremendous amount of respect and honor for our guests coming, and we're committed to helping them get out of the program what they want. And so that's how it happened.
Wow. Yeah. So it's a big risk.
Yeah, it was. And you know what they say, if you knew what you knew, maybe you wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
But we're so thrilled we were naive, and it's all working out really well. And we've made tremendous friends around the globe, and it's enriching our lives as well.
Yeah, that naivety is really interesting, actually, isn't it? I can think of quite a few things over my life that had I known more, I wouldn't have bothered. Do you know what I mean? But I'm so glad I did.
Well, all the podcasts and all the books you've written, I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah. I think I went for a TV job that I did for 15 years in the end. And, I really wanted the job, so I spent a lot of time. And then I got there and there were 60 other people all auditioning for the same job. And as it turns out, I was the only one to get it. So, all the prep I'd done would be the right thing. But had I known there were 60 people going that day, I might have been slightly disheartened by the whole process.
but you knew you wanted it, and it didn't really matter if there were 60 or 6,000. It was for you, right?
That is true. I even went and bought a new suit and got a haircut because I wanted the job so much. From Marks and Spencer's, I might add, which is not exactly the top end of suits in this country, but there you go. Interrupting this podcast for one moment to let you know that it is brought to you by my podcast partners and a scientific breakthrough in anti-aging and longevity. Age beautifully and feel younger with healthy hair, skin and nail growth by taking Spermidine Life. Spermie what? I know, Spermidine. I mean, well, you've probably heard me talking about it now on this podcast. And studies have shown Spermidine may transform your cellular health, cardiovascular function, and improve memory, immune function, and sleep by enhancing autophagy. Spermidine Life is the only clinically tested spermidine supplement that promotes cellular health and longevity. And as you know, it is very popular in my house. We really do believe in the power of spermidine. I first heard about it when I interviewed Dr. David Sinclair, the absolute foremost expert on longevity. He's been on this podcast as well, and he's on the board of Spermidine Life. And if you go to spermidinelife.us and use the code TONY20 at checkout, you will get 20% off. That is Tony20 at checkout. It's possibly time for you to try spermidine. Yeah, I know. It's just it's one of those names that you'll never forget. And if it helps you live 20 years longer or 20 years better at the end of your life, you won't forget it either. Today's podcast partner is Magnesium Breakthrough. And if you don't want to accidentally take a laxative, there's no real delicate way of saying this. If you don't want to have the worst day of your life, you need to listen to the next minute or so of this. Because if you're currently taking a magnesium supplement, chances are you're flushing it down the loo or the toilet. Whether you're in America or the US, we call it loo here in Britain. I mean that literally, because the most common type of magnesium is actually used as a laxative. So if you're taking it, you're literally pooping it. I told you there's no delicate way to say this. And that is why taking a decent magnesium supplement which covers all the bases is so important. Magnesium Breakthrough has 7 unique forms of magnesium that your body can actually absorb. And it is just so important to get the right forms of magnesium. I'm recording this here on a work day in my office in West London. And I'll tell you, it's a busy day. I'm sort of stressed. I'm type A as it is. I'm burning a lot of magnesium. I do need a good magnesium supplement, which is why I love Magnesium Breakthrough. And you've heard me talking about it a lot on this podcast. So you can go to magbreakthrough.com/zestology. Enter the code Zestology10 for 10% off any order. And I've got some great news for you, because if you're in the UK, you can use the code Zestology10 on the Bioptimizers UK site, which is bioptimizers.co.uk, and get 10% off all their products. So it's Zestology10 for 10% off any order. Make sure your magnesium isn't going straight down the toilet. Get a decent one. I told you it was a delicate chat we needed to have. Now, back to the show. Now, very long time ago, I used to live in Italy, and you've now opened an outpost in Italy, haven't you? Which I feel very excited about. Where is it?
Oh my! So it's in a lovely town called Fuji, about 45 miles east of Rome, and it's this charming village in the base of the Apennine Mountains. Which actually in the wintertime at high elevation, you can ski. There's a local ski resort. And there's also a pilgrimage trail network. So when we're out hiking, we're hearing people singing and chanting and praying along the pilgrimage routes. And the famous Fuji mineral waters are there. And so since the 14th century, popes and dignitaries and royals and have gone to Fuji to bathe in the waters and drink the waters that are high in magnesium. And so there's been kind of a renaissance of the town since the palazzo has been restored. And it's lovely people. It's just a great... we're very fortunate to be in the palazzo. They have an amazing Medi Spa and facilities. So when we're not out hiking in nature, we have the benefit of all those amenities. Yeah,
lovely. Oh, sounds dreamy. And I know a lot of your approach is combining certain Western modalities with Eastern medicine and modalities. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, we think both modalities have a place in a human's well-being, and so we're not dismissive of one or the other. And we found that that an approach to mindfulness and plant-based medicines and certainly plant-based nutrition, along with the diagnostics that we can get from Western medicine, including blood testing and establishing baselines for what's happening internally, is the best of both worlds and really necessary in a well-balanced, body.
Yeah. Very good. And then what about your influences? Something that I ask everyone on this podcast is, what is one book that you've read that has resonated that you might, pass on to people? What is an influence of yours that has been particularly important to you?
Yeah. So years ago, there was a book I read called Fit for Life. And the premise was eating more plants and less meat. And so since then, there have been, books on this. And essentially, eating a lot of plants causes your digestive tract to be in an alkali state, because alkaline is secreted to break down plant food. Conversely, if you eat a lot of meat, your stomach produces acid. And so as we know, what does acid do? Acid burns. So when we talk about heartburn, and being from Texas and familiar with heavy meat-based diets, and when you hear about people, taking antacids, then what they're doing is trying to counteract the acid burn. And so disease can't grow in an alkali state, but it can grow in an acidic state. So if you believe the science, then there's a great motivation for more plants and less meat, because it doesn't wear your body out faster, and you tend to have less disease.
Yeah.
And then there are also many benefits. You'd most likely tend to be a little leaner, and I'll just touch on that for a moment, if you don't mind. Is occasionally you'll see people talking about body shaming, and so people talking about losing weight. So we don't care so much about losing weight. What we try to do is help people lose fat and gain muscle. So basically, if you replace fat with muscle, you may not have lost any weight. Great. But losing fat also helps your body to operate more efficiently and more healthfully. And so that's a really important distinction, is just about changing your body mass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of the meat, I mean, I'm certainly a mindful meat eater. And actually, I do eat less meat than I used to and feel a lot better on it. But my goodness, I remember when I went to Austin and went to some of those barbecues, it is just... Actually, I feel a bit sick just thinking about it.
But, I don't eat a lot of meat, but I save it up for when I go to Austin for barbecue.
Yeah. It's a bit of an assault on the senses, isn't it, that the barbecues in Austin?
Right next to the white bread.
Yeah. Oh, God. Is white bread like sweet bread sort of thing?
No. White bread is like bleached, non-nutritional bread.
Oh, I see. Right. Okay.
It's white. It's white and it's soft, and it's great for sopping up the barbecue sauce.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, it sounds like you're fairly similar to me in terms of your meat consumption. What is one tip then that you would give people over the years? You've obviously been so involved in the wellness industry for so long now. The other thing I ask everybody is, what is one tip that you would have for people to live with more energy and vitality? Is there anything that particularly springs to mind?
Yeah, the first thing that just springs to mind is, no matter where you are on your well-being journey, if you just get out and walk more. So, and if you walk with your spouse, your friend, significant other, children, if you can make time to walk, profound things will happen. And, when I watch and I participate in hiking with the guests, when you're out in nature and you're hiking for 4 hours, you tend to talk about what's on your mind, even if you didn't know what was on your mind. And so it's a great opportunity to be intimate with people, whether it's people you know or people you don't know. And so that would be, if people just took more steps, profound things will happen.
I totally agree. There's just something about the connection you can make when you're walking. And one of the things we say in NLP is, when you sit across from someone, it's very confrontational. But if you sit at a 45-degree angle, it's more collaborative. And it might just be that. When you're walking along, you're firstly exercising, you're feeling good, you're out in nature, but also you're not facing each other. So the conversation can flow at a more relaxed pace, can't it?
Yes. And to your point about degrees, so when you're walking, you're at a 90, what are you at a 90, or you're shoulder to shoulder, or you're in front and behind. So there's not eye contact.
No.
And so you just really can get into your heart and out of your head. And especially when you're slightly out of breath and you're distracted by the birds and the butterflies and the view. So yeah, you're exactly right.
Yeah. No, absolutely love it. Totally agree about the walking. And think that's brilliant that it's such a central component of what you do. Where can people find? Are you going to be in London at any point? Let me know if you come over. We'll say hello to you.
Yeah, I think we'll be over in the fall. So love to meet you in person.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And where can people find out more about what you do?
TheRanchMalibu.com.
Yeah. Fantastic. All right. Well, look, I am going to do some walking myself now. Get out in nature. It's not going to be 4 hours though. I'm jealous of that one, but it's not going to be a 4-hour walk today, unfortunately.
Well, a loop around Hyde Park's, a little over an hour, and it's a lovely place to be.
Oh, lovely. Absolutely. Yeah. Really good to talk to you as well. Thanks so much for coming on Zestology.
Yeah, Tony, thank you for having me. It was a great pleasure.
That is it for this podcast. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you to Alex as well, and to my podcast partners who are Magnesium Breakthrough. If you go to magbreakthrough.com/zestology, you can get 10% off by using the code Zestology10. And in fact, you can get more than 10% off if you click on one of their special offers there. I'm recording this just after lunch, and I just took my supplement stack post lunch. In there was some vitamin B12, some vitamin B6, the methylated version, some TMG, trimethylglycine, some homocystex plus, which is a seeking health supplement, some zinc, some vitamin D, and some magnesium from Magnesium Breakthrough. And it is definitely, do you know what? I tell you why I put it in. I've just been feeling slightly achier over the last few days. And I really realized that normally I only take magnesium at night, but then I haven't taken it during the day recently. And I think I might have been taking less than I used to. So I've upped my dose of magnesium a bit, and I think that's going to help with achiness. The main reason I take it is for sleep, but it definitely helps ease aching muscles, and I've been doing a lot of workouts and exercise recently, so maybe it'll help with that as well. But for me, sleep is the big one. And if you go to magbreakthrough.com/zestology, use the code Zestology10, you will get 10% off. That's it. See you next week.